Welcome back to Voices of Dental AI. On this podcast, we talk about how technology shows up in dentistry, not just the tools, of course, but the impact that it has on real practices, real teams, and real patients. Today's episode, though, is about technology risk. Every dental practice carries it until they think that it's never going to be a problem. And I think my guest would absolutely agree with me when it comes to this. But not because these practices are doing something wrong, it's because the technology runs almost every part of the business. So that means that there's going to be risk in every part of the business, right? Often without anyone stopping to ask where the weak points are. I feel like I do that even in my own life. Where are my weak points? I just keep going on autopilot, right? Because that's easy. But today I'm joined by Marty Jablow, one of my favorite people. He's such a good asset to our industry, keeping everyone on their toes and moving forward. Marty has spent decades working with dental practices on technology, compliance, and problem solving, often stepping in after something has already gone wrong. So, Marty, welcome to the show, my dear friend.
Thank you, Loren. Pleasure to be here. You're talking this morning, and the biggest liability in all dental technology, forget dental technology, the biggest liability in all technology, you're looking in the mirror,
Yeah.
is a human being.
Right? We're the biggest risk. We're the
We are
biggest
the
risk.
biggest risk, and it's pretty interesting. I made a mistake this morning, but I was smart enough to figure it out, okay? I had to go into an account, a brokerage account, and I Googled whatever the login. I went to what looked like it was the login and I put in the login information. But when I hit the login, it didn't do anything. Okay. It didn't do anything. And so immediately I did that twice. All right. And it didn't do anything. I changed browsers. I did it 3 times and it didn't work. And then I realized that maybe I was being scammed. So I went to an email that I had that had a link. I went to the link. I got a different login page. All right. And of course, I changed the username. I changed the password. I changed everything. And 2 things was involved. So it can happen to anybody. All right. So all it takes is a moment of whatever you want to call it. All right. And it happens to everybody. The difference is can you recognize those things? What are you going to do when it happens and you have to recognize it?
Yeah.
There was something that was off. This just didn't log in. All right. So since it didn't log in, I'm thinking somebody's grabbing that. But
Yeah.
within less than a minute, I had already changed everything because it didn't add up. And that's the biggest factor. All of technology, the biggest problems are human beings not using it or being scammed into it. Because this stuff is getting better and better. The phishing emails now, instead of things don't look right, they look exactly like what
They
you
look
would expect.
identical. And the voices, the deep fake voices and all of with the phone calls of like your loved one
Right.
is dying, if you, whatever, it sounds just like your loved one. It's terrifying. I've warned every single family member of mine that has no idea that any of this is happening. Do
Right.
not let me go. Like you were saying earlier, let me
Yeah.
go.
So, yeah, earlier we were talking about, doing certain things. And I said, if I was ever kidnapped or anything else, is like my family has known that the thing is take the shot. And if I don't make it, that's okay.
Let me go.
And, that's what we're talking about is we all will be vulnerable to anything at any specific time. When we talk about walking down in any city, pick whichever one you like, and, you put your head on a swivel. You can't be at that alert level 24/7. It's not possible because your body there's no way it will react that way. So eventually it becomes, okay, I'm okay. And then the level of concern goes down until something would spike it right back up. But, that head on a swivel is good, whether you are sitting in front of your keyboard or whether you're walking down the street, to your car at a late hour in a neighborhood you probably shouldn't be in the first place.
It's funny you say that. That's exactly what they teach us in skydiving, because I have my solo skydiving license. I'm retired. I don't do it anymore. But that's one of the first things they teach you right when you land on the ground is head on a swivel, because you don't want someone landing on top of your head. You're in the way. You need to move, 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 right? It's the same.
Listen, it's all the same. I've never skydived. I've tried a couple of times and got weathered out multiple times. So maybe I'm going to have to get you out of retirement and take me. But
God. I'll
but
watch
it's
you from the ground.
okay. But it's no different than me scuba diving. There's a list
Yeah,
of things that you do to try and keep yourself safe. Safety first is always the case. And we're talking about things that aren't necessarily high tech right now.
exactly.
Parachute's been around for a long time. Scuba diving's been around for a long time. Guns have been around for a long time. Knives have been around for a long time. Your mother told you not to take the fork and stick it in the electrical socket. So this stuff happens.
Yeah,
It's
absolutely.
whatever it may be. There's a safety factor, and we have to understand what those safety factors are. So let's move this conversation back into dental and back into tech. All right. Because we can go off on this tangent real easy.
Percent. This was like me and John Fluky. It's like we're gonna sit here on this podcast and we're gonna solve every problem in the world in 30 minutes.
Well, we can try.
And we will. Between you and I or me and John Fluky, it's like, we're gonna
Well,
try. We're gonna figure it
you
out.
should see when John, Paul, and I get together. Oh, it's a
No,
whole different discussion.
no. If you locked all four of us in a room together, every problem would be solved. All of it. All of it. We're fine.
So that's how we started lecturing together. John said, between the three of us, there's not a tech question that can't be answered. That
Exactly.
was
That's powerful.
30 plus years ago, and we can still say that today.
I love that. But
Yeah,
like you said, let's dive in.
let's
So
go in.
I feel like most dental practices don't think of themselves as carrying much technology risk. So, what technology risks do you know that dental practices have that they're not thinking about, haven't been taught? It's just, you don't know what you don't know.
So the biggest problem, well, it's not a problem. You can't run a modern dental office without a computer. So there's your pain point right there. You have to answer an email. You have to connect to the internet. And that is the weak point. If you go back to the old days where everything was still printed out and mailed or faxed, there's not a lot of risk. All right. But the risk came when we started connecting to the internet. And it took a long time, realistically, to become where we are today. And the risk factors have gone up significantly. So with that, your HIPAA compliance stuff is very important. And that's not just the hardware that you need, the firewalls and all of those things. It's also having really good email filtering that's actually looking for these scams and sandboxing them, as they call it, to keep you safe, because the weak link will always be the human being. And the biggest scam right now is people sending in, asking questions. Here's my bill. Can you look it over and tell me? And they'll click on that PDF. You think, most of the time you would think I didn't do anything wrong. And I would tell you in reality, you probably didn't, but you unleashed something that you didn't know. All
Right.
right. And that's really the problem. It's almost like every attachment now should be taken out of an email. Every link now gets looked at. All right. If you have the proper hardware and software in place, a lot of that stuff, a lot of it will be eliminated. Not
Is
all
that
of
what
it.
you would suggest? Certain.
Yeah, I would say you need to make sure, obviously, your firewall is up to date. It's not just something you set and forget. And that's the problem. That you're laughing, but that's the
It
reality. It's
is.
set it
It
and
is.
forget it.
Yeah.
You
Because that's
know,
what we're good at
we're
as
good
humans.
at it. We'll pay anybody to set it up, but now what do we do from there? And not all IT companies are the same. Not all of them. I mean, we can go through a whole laundry list of problems that IT companies have caused dental offices. So when if you go to the hospital, they say you have to be your own advocate. Well, you have to be your own advocate when it comes to dental technology too in the office. Things that keep you safe are still going to keep you safe. And you need to do your homework and know what to ask for so that you can reliably go to an IT company and not sound like, okay, just set it up. I'll give you $5,000. Just set it up.
I want to segue kind of into when those systems fail. So we're talking about data loss, outages, security issues. Dentists often say, we thought that was covered, or there was a missing safeguard or missing awareness, or like what you're talking about. So when systems fail, what wasn't actually in place?
If a system fails, there should be another system to fix it. Okay. So, the standard line forever has been, how many backups do you need? One more than you think you do. All right. We found that out during various things. I was lucky. We did okay. Now it's 13 years ago, Superstorm Sandy. and a lot of places got flooded out. And some of the IT people would tell me the stories where, yeah, we have a backup. It was sitting on top of the computer. Well, the computer and the backup were now under feet of water. I
Oh,
mean, you know, this is the thing, offsite net backups, very important. Okay. Um, Other things like, so one of the things I was referencing earlier was a few years back where we had IT companies leaving open their connections to these servers in all of their clients' offices. And a lot of them got infected with, ransomware and shut down. And, you're going, okay, I did all the right things. Well, yeah, but your IT company didn't. You need to know that your IT company is shutting off links. Remote desktop stuff should not be left open. All right, just to make their life easier. Things like that. We used to say backups. All right. Well, what's a backup look like? Is it just the data? Well, if it's just the data, that's great. But think about how long it's going to take to reconstruct your server. So in my office, we use a box. It's a dental company called DDS Rescue, but there's other variations of that out there, and it basically takes snapshots of the server 20 plus times a day. After Hurricane Sandy, when we still weren't in the office, we could spin up that data on in the web and look at it. So we started confirming patients, making sure they could, well before we ever walked back in the office. All right. And so I've used that a couple times. We moved offices and we had to merge data with another office that we merged with. I mean, it was a big to do. And we had a couple of days where we were still working, but we had an overlap. And I had to go back in and manually put the chart notes from one into the other because they can't do it all at once. But we stayed open. We had another couple of days of production when we had to move the notes over. So how was I doing that? Well, I tell them, spin up the day. And now we could do it. So when you look at those things, those are the kind of things that you have to look at is how is the technology, helping you? But then what are those pitfalls and what do you need to look for in a good IT company? And I would say you'd really want to ask around and see, what other people are using. Google's your friend, ChatGPT's your friend, all of these things that may help you make a better decision as to what that technology is. And again, it depends what technologies you're using.
right.
If we were back to the old days, and I don't know if people are going to know what a sneaker net is, but you
No.
don't know either. It's when you used to take a disc and move it from one to the other, or in some ways we have an air gap. You know what the air gap is? That's where
Yeah.
you don't have an air gap is where you're not connected to the internet. You only would connect to the internet when you need to. That was like old days with dial up, when you get those funny noises, but in reality, you can still do that in your dental office. Do you really need that office? Think about it. I've got a 24/7 connection. Do I really need a 24/7 connection? Okay.
I see. Okay.
What if I shut that connection off from call it 6 o'clock at night to 6 o'clock in the morning? That makes the idea of trying to get in and, when nobody's paying attention a lot harder. So there are
That's a good,
techniques and there are things you can do to try and minimize online risks, but the biggest risk is a human being.
right. So speaking more onto the IT side of it or the IT companies that you hire, the IT vendors, where do you where do you see patients relying too heavily on those vendors? It's like
Patients are
they almost
dental offices.
dental offices,
Okay.
dental office where they forget that they have responsibility to exposure.
The biggest thing that you have to do is your yearly HIPAA audit, as I'll call it, because it's not just about the class saying, don't give out information. In
Yeah.
many cases, what they're going to do is in that HIPAA audit is they're going to do that portion, but they're also going to be looking at your server. What's connected to it? They can run searches, see what ports are open to your office, do all of these things, and then they can give you a report and go, we saw a couple of things. Oh, by the way, you have a thumb drive connected to some computer that had patient information on it. Or we've got images on your desktop that you may need to look at. All right. These are the type of things that we're looking at. And HIPAA in and of itself is just this set of regulations. And there's no one thing you might do that's going to kill you, but it's the whole idea of how do you make yourself better?
Mhm.
That's really what it is. It's a self-assessment. And if you take and let these companies do the self-assessment, your risks are going to go down because they may find things that you were unaware of. And there's your answer. Once you've become aware of it, you fix it. All right.
Mhm.
And hopefully you fix it before it becomes a big problem, not after it becomes the big problem.
Exactly, exactly. So, would you say that it's safe to say that dentists don't understand exactly where the accountability sits when it comes to their tech risk?
Everybody wants to do it the easy way. I pay the company and they handle it. I will write the check. I will do. Oh, and by the way, I'm going to write the check to the insurance company because I got internet insurance and HIPAA insurance and all these other insurances that if something happens, I'm going to get it covered. Well, it's not cheap and it's still not set it and forget it. I mean, I don't know anybody pays their auto insurance and goes, "Oh, I hope I get into an auto accident so I can use it." The problem is that's just a piece. Hopefully, you don't get injured, but that's a piece of equipment. This is your livelihood in many cases. So you don't want to be having a disastrous livelihood. And the crazy part is, and we've all gotten those letters from the banks or wherever you may do some business on the internet. Your stuff may have been, people look at that and go, okay, it is what it is. But when it comes to a mom and pop, like a dental office, they look at it differently.
Yeah, they do.
It's just completely different. And because of that, we have to understand that we used to think we were a low risk thing because, it was just, it's not worth the hacker's time. It is worth the hacker's time.
Depending on what they're asking for, I mean, they only need you to trip up once.
Well, once they have the data, it doesn't matter.
Right.
So how much is that data worth out on the internet, the dark web? That becomes a different thing. But now what we may have is name, address, social security numbers, all these other pieces of the puzzle that people, somewhere else may not have. I mean, when you look at the metadata, okay, maybe, somebody stole something from pick whatever store you shop in a restaurant. Well, they scan my card. They have my name and they have my card number, but they don't have all the rest of me.
Such a It's such a scary time to be alive, but it's also such an exciting time to be alive, I feel like, because you can literally be replicated in 2 seconds and no one will be able
Absolutely.
to tell.
I
Your
mean,
voice.
identity theft is still a big problem, and we have everything in many cases for them to do it.
Right. Right. All right. So let's go into more of the legal side of it, the legal issues when it comes to technology risks. So do you think technology usually creates the issue or does it make an existing issue worse?
Depends where we are in the curve, right? So we've talked about, early days and there wasn't a lot of risk.
Right.
And now there's a lot of risk.
Right.
I mean, think about if you go back, the Nigerian prince, that Nigerian prince has been around for over 30 years, all right? Telling you how much money you've got in some bank account or some version of that. And people get scammed. So with that, I would say where it's not the legal stuff, it's probably more the emotional and just the parts of it that people go, oh my God, what like I almost did this morning. I mean, it was stupid, but it happens. And unfortunately, many of these things online, there are no legal consequences. You can report it, but you're never going to see a resolution or somebody getting involved. The numbers have to be huge for the FBI or to get involved because most of the time these things are going to be small enough. And when I say small enough, it could be $50,000. But in the big picture, are they gonna have the resources or wanna use the resources for something like that? And the answer is probably no. So from a legal perspective, you have to cover yourself, do whatever you have to protect yourself and your patients in your office. That's a bare minimum. But if something happens, there's not huge legal recourse here.
It's terrifying. I mean, how are we supposed to operate on a day-to-day basis seeing patients with such delicate information knowing that in the back of our heads?
You do the best you can. with the technology that you have. And as I like to say, the US government has lost probably more information than you and I will ever have combined. All right.
Right.
And they can lose everybody's, who has a social security number in an instant. And they
Right.
have. All right. They usually make themselves immune from prosecution, but they
Right.
don't make us. And because of that, you just have to follow the rules and stuff happens and you just make sure you've done what you're supposed to do so that if somebody comes in and says, well, how did this happen? You can find the mistake, but it may not take you all down.
Okay, got it. So I want to talk more about the impact over time. So more so like the long-standing tech decisions that hurt trust and efficiency. What long-standing technology decisions or things that were never revisited quietly hurt efficiency, communication, or trust inside a practice specifically?
So the biggest problem in a dental office, usually in getting technology advanced, is finding the person in the office who's not what I call the technophobe. All
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
You want the person who loves to do this. All right. In my case, it happens to be me, but in many dental offices, that wouldn't happen. You may have people who just don't want to embrace technology and get forced kicking and screaming into everything from, digital radiography to intraoral scanning and that. But we all know that they all have a computer to run their office because there's no way to do it anymore, basically. Although I'm sure there are a handful of offices in this country that are doing it still the old fashioned way. But with that, we have to look at it and go, all right, there are always going to be mistakes made. And as I like to call it, what is the biggest fear that people have when acquiring new technology? It's fear of making the wrong decision. They
Okay.
don't have enough information about it, and then they rely on other people and other things to help make the decision for them. So there's a fear of making the wrong decision, and that fear is what really is the big limiting factor. We don't upgrade. We don't do this. We don't do that because, I mean, most software, if it doesn't upgrade on its own, people don't upgrade it. It's working good. Don't muck
Yep.
with it. All right?
Especially in dentistry, we were very much if it's broke, don't fix it.
Correct. And don't break it.
If it works, don't.
If it
If it's
works,
not
don't
broke,
break
don't
it,
fix it.
and if it works, don't muck with it, okay? So,
Yeah.
oh, do we need that feature? No. So why are we gonna upgrade, all right? There are people who, for years, were still running DOS-based, practice management systems until they were forced out. They don't wanna upgrade the computers, so now we're all online. So we moved from, okay, we have client servers in our office for all those years, and now we have cloud. But even with the cloud, can you move back and forth? There's limits to everything. So the problem is that in many cases, you made a decision. Perfect example I'm going to use right now because it's happening in my office. We made decisions back 30 years ago on how we were going to do something. All right. And it's worked perfectly fine for 30 plus years. And now we introduced another software which has a problem with that. It can't find it can't find some of my patients when we ask it to use this third-party software. So what do we do? All right. It was a decision made before this stuff was ever a thought in anybody's head. Yet now may be a limiting factor. How do you fix it? You may not be able to fix it. So this
Right.
company that I'm working with came in and over a year ago tried to get me involved and we got involved, but it never really fully worked. So they came back to me this year and said, we think it may work now. All right.
We think?
We think, we think, all right. Is it better? Absolutely. Is it
Yeah.
100%? No. Okay. Every single day, there are multiple patients it does not find. All right. I know what the problem is. All right. But they're not willing to devote the resources to fix it. Now, I might be an outlier. All right. I've been shortlist for almost 20 years. Okay.
Jeez. That's great.
Right. Right. And what happens is we found ways around problems that existed back then, but you don't know if those problems may create problems for you in the future.
I see. I
So the
see.
solutions might have been good for the time, but they may not be good for the future
And
because
it's
the
changing
tech,
so rapidly.
well, and the technology changed. That's really what it comes down to. What are we looking at and how are we looking at it? So I look at those things and I go, okay, you can make those mistakes, but they may not have been mistakes. They were the right decision at the right time. And now
Right.
how does it play out years in advance? No one will know that. That's just becomes part
Exactly.
of growth, change of software, change of something if you need to. And that's so I'd say the fear is getting involved with that stuff, is you got to get involved anyway. So
Right.
don't be afraid of it. Find the people who can help you get that information that you need to make good decisions at the time. And you can't worry about the future because, if I can predict the future, I wouldn't be sitting here talking to you.
Exactly.
Right.
I do I feel like when it comes to all of this stuff, what's that saying? It's like you saw the decision I made, not the choices I had,
Correct.
right? So, I mean, at
Yeah.
the end of the day, it's the truth.
It is absolutely the truth. Your choices may not, well, it's like I always said way back, a choice of one is not a choice. And just think there was somebody who saw dental software 40 years ago and said, hey, that's a good idea. All right. Now it doesn't exist anymore, but
Right.
but it was a good idea because their choices were limited. And sometimes at the beginning of a curve, any technology curve, your choices are limited until it gets bigger. Then you have another problem. You've got all these companies coming in who are trying to get involved in a Me Too. As that growth curve goes up, there's all these companies involved. And then what you get is the backside of the curve where people are going, okay, we've got consolidation in the industry. Right now, I'm seeing that in what I call the AI receptionist space. Lots of people are jumping in just for this, a couple of weeks ago at the Greater New York meeting. Everybody had one. There were tons of them out there. What's the distinguishing factor between them? I'm not sure there's much, if any. All right. So you have to understand that the company you choose today may not be there tomorrow, or it gets bought out and now it becomes a different company. And I saw that. I was there at the beginning when we did text reminders. And then, it became just another thing that's added. It's Me Too. And the companies that I was working with, were bought up and the bigger companies swallowed them up and all the breakthrough technology disappeared.
How would you advise a practice owner or just a practice in general? So, any clinical staff that's in charge of these kind of things, if they want to reduce technology risk without overhauling everything, how would you suggest that they go about doing that?
Technology risk in terms of communications and practice management, that becomes learning more. The more you learn, the easier it is to understand where the problems might be.
Right.
Whereas if you don't want to learn it, now you're at the risk of making some other bad decisions. Now, I'm not some tech guru networking guy. I mean, I can talk a bunch of
Yeah.
the talk. I can walk a little bit of the walk, but I can't do the big stuff. All right.
Yeah.
And educate yourself enough to be able to understand what people are telling you is probably the best way to describe it. If you can do that, then you've eliminated a big chunk of what I call sales. You're not going to be sold on things that you don't need or want. You're going to understand what they're going to provide for you. And with that understanding, you get the benefit of usually better outcomes and, less wasted money.
So, stay informed would be one of the
Yeah,
big.
educate yourself. I know it may not be the subjects most people want to hear, but the better you can educate. And maybe you're going to talk to 3 or 4 different IT companies. And each one, when you sit down with them, forget about the cost. Listen to what they're telling you and then ask those appropriate questions. Or, hey, go to ChatGPT or whatever and go, what are the things in a dental office I need to do and understand when selecting an IT company to protect myself online? And it will probably give you a list of things and go through the list. When I bought my Tesla, all right, there was lists online when you went to go pick it up of what to look for. They were
Really?
checklists. Yes. And I bought I don't know how many cars over the years. I never went to pick up a car and had to do a checklist. All
I have
right.
a Tesla. I didn't look at a checklist.
Yeah. So I did the checklist. I went through it looking at body gaps. I mean, again, depending on when you bought your car, Tesla was new. And we would go through and check, 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 check. Okay, this is good. I don't have to let them take it because service at a Tesla is not their high point. Okay. So you get the idea. Get that kind of stuff so you don't miss something because it's too easy to miss.
Last question. Are there any red flags that you would say that you need to look out for in IT companies that you've experienced or that you've heard about, things that people really need to watch out for of absolutely not smoking gun kind of red
So
flag?
the red flags are usually them telling you need to buy things you don't need to buy. All right. It's sales. They make money. Some of them don't make huge amounts on the hardware. So I don't want to say that. But even if the margins are slim, and in my office, we just did a complete computer upgrade for $35,000. And, do you need every computer upgraded? All right. Can you move computers from one place to another and still be functional for a period of time? Or
Right.
that's the kind of thing that I would say you need to look for. Just because they tell you something doesn't make it true. No, I've got a bridge I can sell you, or swampland. And that's the kind of thing we're discussing is, when you look at those quotes, have other people look at those quotes. Give it to the competitor and let them bid against themselves. That's a great way. See what their service is like. Hey, if I run into a problem, can you be in my office? All right. Or, well, I can use the guy, and I do 3,000 miles away. All right. So you have to understand that it doesn't need to be in your backyard all the time. And are you paying for that? And then some of them charge a monthly fee, and what are they doing for that monthly fee?
Right.
And a lot of times it's not much. So with that, you have to understand whether you're buying hardware and then paying for service, kind of like when you buy a car. If I have to take it in, I got to get somebody, I pay for that. Or are you buying this like lease that every 3 years I know I'm going to spend a lot more money and I shouldn't have to pay for anything? It's mindsets in many cases. And you have to understand what those look like and what the costs are to your practice. So that would be one of my things that I would say. Also, very important, don't put all your eggs in one basket. Don't let one person handle all of it. So the guys who handle my HIPAA and compliance and that part of my network, then I have an IT company that handles my network at the hardware portions, not necessarily all the software portions. So those are the things that I would say, might want to think about. It's easy to just go all in one because I only write one check and there's only one person to answer for. But if they screw up, now what?
That's what I was going to ask you is more so why you want to steer away from doing kind of an all in one solution.
Either way, in the end, you're left holding the bag. They're not. It's not yes, it's their company and their risk, but in the end, it's your patients, it's your data, and that's what's at risk. So I call it just like dentistry, whether it's my assistant, my hygienist, whoever's looking at that patient, more eyes are better than less. So that's really where I'm at with this. If we look at that and go, let me get this and let me let lots of people look at it, I'm probably going to see things differently than if I only get one set of eyes on it at one time.
Yeah, man, I just learned so much about technology risks that I had no clue about. And I am glad that we have people like you that are willing to talk about it because if I had to talk about it, my eyes would start crossing. There's no way. But you explain it in a way that people can understand, but you also create that urgency of you don't really have a choice. This is something that is going to be a problem if you don't pay attention to it at some point in time. If you keep practicing, if you keep your doors open, you are going to be at risk. So how do we make
Correct.
sure that that risk is mitigated or lowered as much as possible, right?
That's the game plan.
I love it. Thank you so much for being on the show, Doc. And how can people find you? Where would you like them to contact you?
You can find me online, dentaltechnologycoach.com. I have a blog. I'm on Facebook. I'm on LinkedIn.
Everywhere.
Just Google my name, Marty Jablow. Some link will come up. You can get to me.
The man is everywhere. If there's anyone that lives on planes more than I do and a couple of other people I know, it's you. I'm glad that we have people like you. Thank you for being on the show, and we'll see you guys next time.
Bye now.